William Joyce got 127 rejections before he was invited to do anything, to write anything. So the publishing industry is changing. What would you assume is the best way to get published these days? Is it to be well known? Is it to make publisher friends? Is it to suck a few body parts? What do you think?
Which body parts? This is important.
The really, really nice ones.
Well, then that's a no-brainer.
Well, I don't
Sounds
think
like
it's by rating. I can throw that out there. I don't know. I mean, obviously you got to have something written, but definitely connections.
Yeah. Yeah. Everyone I know that's published a book, like every time I ask them, "Oh, how did you publish a book?" "Oh, we just know someone in the business." I'm like, "Oh." So obviously your shit isn't the greatest on earth. That's great. That's awesome. It makes sense. It's like getting a job. You just got to know the right people. That's all there is to it. There's no secret formula to it. You know, it's yeah.
Luckily, it's easier now to get to know those people. You know, like
Yeah.
It's actually, I mean, to be honest, 127 rejections before he was invited to do anything. Honestly, that doesn't surprise me. That seems kind of average, to be honest. I mean, it depends on were those 127 novel rejections or short story rejection. You know, it's kind of hard to, not that it matters, but it's just to put it into context, like, it's a lot of rejections, but I think, first of all, I guess I would assume that we're talking about published in terms of, like, the big six publishers, not like self-publishing or something like that. So
yeah, I would assume so. Yeah,
it's easier to get to know people now. If you can prove yourself as invested, like what Dean's doing with his channel, with his review channel, that's something I would put in every single query letter ever sent out. Was your channel that you're doing? I mean, to show that you're invested in the community and you have a following like that. Like, he has a huge number of subscribers. That's interesting to publishers. They want to know who you know, and so. It really does amount to who you know, honestly.
Yeah, I think.
Yeah,
go ahead.
That also, I'll throw out really quick, hooks you up with meeting people too. Like, I'm not looking to publish anything at the moment, but by doing this, I have gotten in contact with like 3 independent publishers, not like ebook. They're publishing houses. They're not the big 6, but as far as like sending, if I have a short story someday that I do want to try and get into a literary magazine, I know these editors now personally, as opposed to just sending them in randomly. So that also helps.
Yeah, I went into this huge spree of sending out query letters to, I think, about 30 publishers. I used this book called Jeff Herman's Guide to Publishers in the Industry. Right, it's a really good book. They tell you about the publishers themselves, who they are, what their dogs' names are, what their grandma does for a living, everything you need to know about these guys. It has it in this book. So I used this book and I filled out a lot of query letters. I mean, honestly, I think I spent about 2 whole nights, just like up all night, just making these letters, then sending them out. So I didn't hear back in terms of any kind of success from a single one. So the people that I know that I've submitted to, like I know this guy in like right now I'm interning at a magazine, and if I had submitted anything there, there's a good chance I would get published because I know someone there. But apart from that, it's really difficult. I think the best way to do it is to start off small. So you got like a little piece. Like I submitted a flash fiction, right, to this website called Everyday Fiction, and they published it for me. They gave me a few bucks for it. It was really cool. And then after that, they messaged me and said, so we're kind of, these other parties interested in publishing your flash fiction into a anthology. But we want to do it as well, so we're kind of fighting over it, just to let you know. And like I read that, I was like, yes. But if you do that, right, that's nothing. Like flash fiction is nothing. It's like a little 200-word story. But that is something you can put onto your query letter. You can put it onto anything you want, because that is something big. That's just like you've put in the effort. Even if it's not something, that's going to make you money anytime soon, it's just that you put in the effort. So I definitely agree with what Caleb's saying about the channels. Definitely put them into your letters.
If you have enough subscribers, that is. I mean, it's about the people you know and your numbers. Like, if basically publishers want to know that you have a built-in audience. So basically, so they don't have to do anything is what they would love. Ideally, they would have someone that they don't have to do anything with, and they'll just make money off of them. They're jerks like that, I guess. So if you have, a couple hundred subscribers, probably don't mention that. If you have thousands and thousands, definitely mention that. Same thing with Twitter, same thing with Facebook, all that kind of stuff. If you have a lot, mention it, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because I was going to say that, what's the name of it? Throne of Glass, this girl, Sarah J Maas, she started off on Smashwords, and I'm not saying this needs to be for everybody because I feel like per person it's going to be, like, it's all about your preference of how you want to do your stuff, but, like, she got the attention of some big publishers because of her success with her short, I guess she did it as novellas, put it on Smashwords or whatever, and that got a lot of followers, and that's why, yeah, she got, some big names looking out for her and saying, hey, we want to make a deal with you, so.
Yeah, I think it should be drummed into kids these days who want to be writers that they need to be more than a writer. They need to promote themselves, promote their style, promote, other people in the industry, because that's really the way to get there. It's like you're never going to get anywhere. I know this. I read this post about this guy who wrote like 3 books, and he's just like, so I've written these 3 books, and I've made no money off them, and I'm really depressed, and kill me. And I read that, I'm like, I don't really want to end up like that guy. That doesn't sound really fun to me. So
that's a key point. That's a key point, being more than just writers, because there's a difference between being a writer and being an author. An author is an occupation. Writer is kind of a hobby. So you have to do all the things that come along with being a writer. And I speak of someone who's had minimal success. I mean, I'm still learning, of course, but it seems as though when you can prove to people that you're truly invested, you're truly interested in just the industry as a whole, then they become more, they don't want someone, there's the romanticized version of a writer, someone who sits at their desk smoking and typing, and they only come out in the sun to like get groceries and go back, and that's not what publishers want. They don't want that. They want someone who's going to be out there and going crazy and trying to promote themselves, and a lot of writers by their nature aren't that. So I think that's where it's very difficult for, just us being here willing to put our faces out there on YouTube probably says more than a lot of authors out there trying,
Yeah, on the topic of like being independent and all that, with self-publishing, right? Because I know, Caleb, you got a few books published by actual publishers. So how do you feel about self-publishing and ways to get your stuff out there, even if you don't have a publisher promoting your stuff?
Well, first of all, I'm all for self-publishing. It's not something I've always been a fan of, but once I realized that I had to kind of drop that pretense of having someone else validate my work, it becomes so much easier, That's really all it's about. You want someone else to validate your work, but you have to understand that people who are validating your work, the big 6, they're only validating it because they think it can sell, not because it's good. They just think it can sell. Now, when you work with mid-tier publishers like I work, and micro publishers, very small publishers, generally speaking, they're more willing to look at the actual quality because they know it's not going to sell very well to begin with. So they're just like, yeah, let's look at quality and let's do that. So I think self-publishing is an awesome thing to do. You can't stress enough the importance of an editor. I mean, so much self-published out there is crap. So you invest in like a good editor if you can't do it yourself. I'm lucky to have writing friends that do editing professionally, so they're able to do it for me. And I have a couple, like one of my books is actually self-published. The other ones aren't, but it's so much, I'm all for self-publishing, I guess is the bullet point.
I think one of the major things I would say if anyone's starting out writing is to definitely join a writing course. Like, even if you only do it for a year, you will make massive friends. Like, people there will know their shit. Like, even if you just get to know the teacher themselves, they know people who are in the industry. They can hook you up with that kind of thing. And also, I've written a novel and a novella, and both have been edited by people that I know that are like actual editors, because I know them personally. So it's really simple. You don't have to pay them or anything, because they just do it as a favor, and then you owe them a favor. Keeps going like that.
Hence we get to the body parts that you have to suck that we talked about earlier.
Exactly. Yeah. Those delicious body parts, man. Great. So when you review work on Amazon, right, that's a way to promote a certain work. It doesn't have to be yours, but I haven't done this before. I haven't reviewed stuff on Amazon. I know that's really useful for people. I know that increases your rankings so that you can climb up the people can find your work easier. But yeah, I assume it's the same with YouTube, where it's all about algorithms and being able to find a book based on the number of reviews or how high they're rated. I'm not sure how that works, but like do you think that's a viable way to get known, or is it just about promoting yourself in other ways?
Absolutely. I mean, algorithms kind of run our world. Few people realize that Amazon, when they recommend books to you, that's an algorithm, and a lot of people buy those recommended books. They get the emails that say you bought this, you might like this. A lot of people buy those, and that's all algorithm based. And so it's really putting like a mathematical formula to word of mouth. So if you're good at generating word of mouth, which that's what sells books, any publisher will tell you word of mouth sells books. Advertising doesn't sell it, book tours don't sell it, word of mouth sells it. So if you can basically use the algorithm to your advantage, that definitely helps out. Like book reviews are a big thing, getting people to review, especially during the first week of a book's release. That's actually pretty important. YouTube is another example. Recently on YouTube, they started hiding the tags. I'm sure you guys know, but they started hiding the tags. That right there tells you that they use the tags, and that's pretty important. Like if you look between the lines, the reason they're hiding it is because they don't want people to abuse it. They don't want people to manipulate the tags just for rankings. So they're using that information pretty heavily. So yeah, algorithms are really important. I'm an SEO nerd, so algorithms are kind of my life, to be honest. And yeah.
Yeah, I know that a lot of people on YouTube, right, they get famous. They get really famous by exploiting algorithms at the right times. So you might have something to do with a movie trailer, right, and it could be anything. It could be reviewing the trailer, for God's sake, and people find you. And then they look at your other stuff, and that's bam, like you got an audience. Maybe that's in the field that you want. But it's the same with anything. It's like if you can exploit the algorithms at the right time, then you get a lot of people finding your stuff. That's the most important thing. People finding your
Music
stuff.
Music covers.
Yeah, exactly.
All the time.
And remixes and all that. Dubstep, yeah, that's great. Yeah, I self-published this book, right? Shameless self-promotion. I wrote this when I was, how old was I? Well, I was like 15, and then over the next few years I kept writing it, kept editing it. It turned out shit. It's really shit. I don't like it. And the problem is, this, I think that's, yeah. Can you see that? Is that? Oh, whatever. It's over 300 pages.
Yeah, your screen's frozen.
Oh, no.
Yeah, and I broke my own rule, and therefore the whole book is shit now. So, it's shit for other reasons, but still. I found that just writing a book, like when I first wrote it, right, there's a story to this. When I first wrote it, I was like, okay, I've written a book. This is awesome. I'm going to get famous and everything. And then after about 2 minutes, I realized no one knows about this book. I've been writing it for so long. Nobody knows about it. And it's just been like sitting there, just completely unknown. I showed it to a few family members and all that, but honestly, it's just like, I'm too embarrassed by it now because it's too old. My writing's improved since then. So, if I was going to self-publish that, I would have gone to bigger lengths. And because at that stage, like I was still doing the course and I was still like, learning. I think I was in high school at that stage, so it's like, screw it. After that, I just want to keep moving. I don't want to keep going back and editing. I just want to keep moving. So, I agree that self-publishing is good, but there's also a problem with influx of bad material and not being able to sift through it.
That's one of my biggest fears, actually, is that people who may not read that often, might pick up a book that's self-published, not knowing it's self-published, and I'll use the term self-published as an umbrella for badly edited, lower quality, even though that might not be the case. I'll just use that for the sake. They pick up a book that's self-published, they read it, they're like, oh, this is reading? Oh, these are books? Oh, no wonder why I don't read them. And they'll never give it another chance. It's a fear of mine, but I think for the most part, history kind of tells you that the bad books will die their own death. So that's why you see a lot of times, I think book reviews are generally positive. People like to talk positively about books. If you demonize a book, it's basically like demonizing minority anyway. That came out wrong. So it's like basically like demonizing a subset of a subset of a subset of a subset. So there's a very few amount of people that read anyway, comparatively speaking. And then you're going to separate off some of those and say these books are bad. Why? When you could just instead promote the positive books. Now, that's generally how it happens. I don't necessarily agree with that because I think calling attention to a terrible book is worth doing. But at the same time, I think that's generally why you see, more positive reviews because, yeah.
Yeah. I would probably disagree with Bad Books Dying a Death, because, 50 Shades is still up there. It's still top in the charts. Still.
But for how
it's
long?
been a while. Yeah.
Yeah.
Obviously, it's going to die eventually.
And I use Bad. I guess I should
last past our generation, you know.
Yeah.
Nobody's going to be reading that in 150 years.
Let's hope not.
Nope.
I should probably qualify too when I say bad. I mean, it's a term. I had this discussion with someone else. I don't know. I can't remember when it was, but it was basically 50 Shades of Grey, for example. It's selling for a reason, and it's selling word of mouth as part of it. I know, Donovan, you've mentioned that before. I think it's selling word of mouth is a huge part of it. Just the risque nature of it's part of it, but there's something in me that makes me think it has to have some sort of cultural relevancy for it to be this popular. I don't know what that is. I don't want to really explore it too deeply, but there's got to be a reason why it's selling so much. It's not just word of mouth. It's not just the risque nature. It's got to be something. I don't know what it is, but
like a need for something that's in the book. Is that what you mean? Like people are looking for something necessarily in the book, or
possibly? I don't know. Could be. I don't know.
Are you talking more about the whole big conspiracy where it's they managed to get everyone to buy their book just somehow? It's like they got the right contacts that are up in the right place. The White House, the president isn't on this.
No, I don't think it's.
Tell this.
If the president was in it, that'd be kind of funny, actually. No, I think if anything is that popular, there's a reason it's that popular. We can't just say it's terrible.
Yeah.
We know it's poor writing. I think I haven't read it, but I've heard from people. A lot of people say it's poor writing. But if something's that popular, it's got to have a reason. Hello Kitty in Japan. Let's just go to a completely different version. Hello Kitty in Japan is popular for some reason. Some people say it's because Hello Kitty has these big eyes, and it's and the big eyes are a sex symbol in Japan, or that kind of thing. It resonates with people. So for some reason it's popular, and we don't know what it is, but for some reason it is. And because it's so popular, I have to have faith that it's touching on something that's important. I don't know what it is, but something.
Yeah, I think it's this hidden algorithm with people. It's you can't even see it coming. It just happens, and it's just why?
That's because you were blindfolded.
Same with Twilight. It's how did that book get so big? And I don't know. It's just craziness. All right, well, let's move on, because I think we've been talking about self-publishing for ages. But before we finish, I wouldn't mind getting just Dean and Liz, your thoughts real quick on books that you've read that have been self-published. Have you guys dabbled into that market?
A little bit.
Have you thought they're just generally bad, or?
The first one that I had read was pretty, the idea for the book, the story itself, the whole idea was amazing, but the writing was just, he credited an editor, and I was like, dude, you need to get a better editor, because I don't know who's looking at your book, but it is not good. But the other ones that I've read have been, really good, and I'm very selective. I usually delete emails from self-published authors, but but the other ones that I've read are pretty good. Yeah.
Sorry, go. I've read a few that have been sent my way towards my channel, particularly because I feel like I owe something to my audience that spends a lot of time watching it. If they dedicated years to something, I feel like I can help out every now and then. I don't get inundated with tons of emails like that, because my subscriber base is still relatively speaking, still pretty low. Most of the time, it's not anything too impressive. And as far as leisurely reading, I almost never go towards it. I realize that the good stuff, in my eyes, most of the time isn't going to be published by the big publishers, because, as Caleb said, they're more often looking for what's going to sell money-wise than good writing-wise. And so I realize I have to dig deeper into the middle independent publishing houses that maybe publish 5 or 6 books a year, and they're all run based on Kickstarter funds and stuff like that. But if a work is good enough that I should read it, somebody somewhere is probably going to pick it up, even if they're not making a profit off of it, just for the recognition of being able to say that. Yeah, I don't know. I just don't see many works out there that are selling on Amazon as being self-written and self-published for $1.99 being worth my time. That's the way I kind of look at it. If there is some diamond in the rough, somebody's going to find it and bring it up a little bit.
Yeah, I saw one of the comments on your videos, Dean, and it was just like some guy saying, oh, how do they review this? We're used to this classical stuff. How do they? I'm like, what? Are you insane? Let him do whatever he wants. Oh my God,
Right.
what are you gonna do for him? You're just watching his videos. Unbelievable.
Sorry, Dean.